Break your arm today and you have options. A hospital, a painkiller, a clean cast, a doctor who knows exactly what to do. Now take all of that away. No hospital, no medicine, no doctor, no word for infection. Just you, a serious injury, and a body that either heals or doesn't. This was the reality for every human who ever lived, for almost all of human history, and your instinct is probably that they were helpless, that a broken bone or a bad wound was basically a death sentence. But that's wrong, and the truth is genuinely astonishing, because ancient humans with no medicine and no understanding of germs worked out how to set bones, treat wounds, ease pain, and even perform surgery, real surgery, tens of thousands of years ago, that people actually survived. How they figured all this out with nothing is one of the most impressive stories our species has to tell. The real story begins now. First, the thing that sounds impossible. Ancient humans performed brain surgery, and I don't mean a myth. I mean it's one of the oldest and most widespread surgeries we know of, found on skulls from all over the world, going back tens of thousands of years. It's called trepanation, making an opening in the skull. We found ancient skulls with neat, deliberate openings in them, and here is the part that stops people cold. The bone around the opening had healed. New bone had grown back over the edges. That only happens if the person was alive for months, sometimes years afterward. They didn't just do the surgery, the patient survived it. Some skulls even show it was done more than once on the same person, healing each time. We're not completely sure why they did it. Some think it was to relieve pressure after a head injury. Others think it had meaning we've lost. But the fact itself is undeniable. With simple tools and no medicine as we know it, ancient humans opened the human skull and the patient lived to heal. That is not the work of primitive people. That is the work of skilled ones. Okay, but surgery was rare. The everyday emergency was the broken bone. And here, ancient humans were quietly brilliant. There's a famous idea in anthropology. A healed thigh bone is the first sign of civilization, because in the wild, an animal with a broken leg dies. It can't run, can't find food, can't escape. But a human skeleton with a broken bone that healed straight and strong tells you something remarkable. Someone cared for that person for weeks or months while they couldn't move. Someone brought them food. Someone protected them. The healed bone isn't just medicine, it's proof of compassion. And they didn't just wait and hope. Ancient healers understood that a broken bone had to be held still and straight to heal properly. They used splints, wood, bark, stiff bindings to lock the limb in place, the same basic principle as a modern cast. Set it straight, hold it still, give it time. They worked that out with no anatomy books, just observation passed down over generations. Now wounds, in a world of sharp tools, hunting, and hard living, cuts and wounds were constant, and the real danger was never the cut itself, it was what came after, infection. They had no idea germs existed, and yet, astonishingly, many of the things they did worked anyway. Honey is the best example. Ancient peoples across many cultures packed wounds with honey, and it turns out honey genuinely fights bacteria. It's still used in some medical dressings today. They had no theory of why. They just noticed wounds treated with honey went bad less often, remembered it, and passed it on. Same with certain plants and resins with real antiseptic properties. They couldn't explain a single one of these. They didn't need to. Trial, error, memory, and a library of what worked and what didn't, built over thousands of years. That was their science. And pain. This is the question everyone asks. What did they do about the pain with no painkillers? The honest answer is that they endured a great deal of it, far more than we ever have to. But they weren't completely without help. All around the world, ancient humans found plants that dulled pain and calmed the body. Willow bark, for instance, contains a natural relative of the active ingredient in aspirin. Different regions found different plants, but the pattern is the same everywhere. Humans searching their environment, testing what helped, and remembering it. It wasn't a pharmacy, but it wasn't nothing. At this point, the real question is how did they ever figure any of this out? No microscopes, no science, no way to know why anything worked. And the answer is the most human thing of all. They watched, they remembered, and they taught.
Every remedy was a tiny experiment paid for by someone. One person tried a plant and got better. Another tried a different one and didn't. The results were remembered, passed to children, refined over generations. A single human knew a little, but a community across 100 generations built up an enormous hard-won library of what healed and what harmed, stored entirely in memory and handed down. Their doctors were their elders, their medical textbook was living memory, and it was good enough to set bones, treat wounds, ease pain, and open a skull and have the patient live. So here's the thought to sit with. We tend to imagine ancient humans as helpless against injury, suffering and dying at the smallest wound. But the evidence says something very different. They cared for their injured for months. They set bones that healed straight. They found real medicine hidden in plants and honey. They performed surgery that people survived. Not because they had knowledge like ours, but because they had the two things that built all of medicine in the first place: the patience to observe and the will to care for each other. Every hospital, every painkiller, every surgery today rests on a foundation laid by people who had none of it and figured it out anyway. The next time you take medicine and it just works, remember, someone thousands of years ago found the very first version of it by paying attention and caring enough to remember. Next time, we'll look at something stranger and quieter, what ancient humans actually believed happened when you died, and why every human culture on Earth started burying their dead. I'm Doodle Dave. See you there.